podcast is sponsored by Gwinnett Drugs, a pharmacy dedicated to advancing the profession through innovation and high-quality compounding. Gwinnett Drugs continues to create modern, patient-centered solutions that elevate the standard of care in pharmacy practice. Hi, and welcome to EmpowHERx, the podcast where women in pharmacy share their voices, victories, and visions for a stronger profession. I'm Katie Bell, joined by my amazing co-hosts, as always, Pam Marquez and Lindsay McCoy. Today, we're wanting to discuss coming out from behind the counter and how we can do more than what we thought in traditional pharmacy. Our guest today is Ms. Blair Thielemier, and she started her own innovation and entrepreneurial career with the Pharmapreneur, and she hosted the very first virtual pharmacy conference back in, was it 2017, Blair? Yeah. And her love of enhanced services such as immunizations, point of care testing, and chronic care management have launched her into this amazing career that has also launched a lot of amazing careers for many pharmacists. She is there as a coach, as a cheerleader, and as our guide. So today, Blair, a lot of us know you, and we know about the Pharmapreneur Academy, especially in the independent world. I first found you when I was an owner looking for new out of the box ideas, and I was in one of your virtual summits that you had and just was like enamored with the whole idea of it. And what challenges do you feel like you faced as a woman innovating in a traditionally conservative field?
Yeah, thank you. So great question. I started my journey really when I was let go of from a traditional pharmacy job. So I was a hospital pharmacist working in a clinical setting in rural Northeast Arkansas. And it was it was at that point that I had always thought I had this traditional career as a pharmacist that was safe, it was secure. I think a lot of us went into pharmacy because we were, at least speaking for myself, I was interested in serving patients. I was interested in helping people be healthier. And when I had been working throughout my career as first as a clinical hospital pharmacist, eventually moving into the independent community kind of realm, for me, it was something that I was interested in, which was health and wellness, that I didn't see at the traditional pharmacy conferences. I didn't see it in Pharmacy Today and the places that after graduating I was looking for continuing education. I was looking for professional development, and it really, building the Pharmapreneur Academy and hosting the Elevate Pharmacy Virtual Summit, all of that educational piece came from a place of just, I really wish I would have had this information, had access to this information whenever I was in school. And so it really came from a function of, I don't see it in the marketplace, so I'm just going to build it myself. And maybe part of that too was just thinking the explosion in technology and being able to create a social media presence as an independent community pharmacy owner. I think there were so many things coming together at that point in 2017 when I really started to put myself out there in a much bigger way through the summits. Was for 5 years we were one of the only virtual pharmacy conferences that was happening, and then boom, 2020 hit,
Right.
and it was like, "Oh, okay." Like, this makes even more sense now. So, it's been a crazy journey throughout the past 10 years as an entrepreneur, and now in 2025, we're moving forward. Even here in the state of Arkansas, I'm licensed as a provider, a credentialed provider with Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And there's things that we can do as pharmacists that are innovative and are impactful. And this has always really been where my heart has been in the independent community pharmacy realm. I mean, I have my great-grandfather's pharmacy license from Missouri on my wall, and I think it's that reminder of where our roots in pharmacy come from. You know, we were all mostly small drugstore owners, and so I think in a sense in today's world, like, getting back to that, being able to really serve our communities in new ways. That's kinda where I hope to see things moving forward in my career.
I mean, you've had such a journey with all of this, but even going back to the beginning, what I wanna know is your mindset shift from I am an employee to I am a business owner and entrepreneur. What was that process like for you? And how did being a woman kind of facilitate or influence that for you?
Yeah, I mentioned working as a clinical hospital pharmacist, so the transition from clinical hospital to basically owning my own consulting business happened. I was 6 months pregnant when, I was effectively moved to PRN and at this hospital location. So I was basically interested in entrepreneurship from a point of how do I best serve my growing family? And as a mom, my priorities had shifted. I was 6 months pregnant, so it didn't really make sense for me to go looking for another full time role. So when I started my business, it was really just as simple as I was looking at my community. I was saying, where are the needs? There's a lot of owners here, and people were looking for someone to do PRN shifts. And I said, this makes sense for me. So I started my own LLC and started running effectively my business as a 1099 subcontractor. And it was it was really my journey over the past 10 years fueled by wanting to be able to be present with my kids and kind of make my own schedule and being flexible. Part of the draw, I guess, to owning my own business was was that I could, have this sort of I don't wanna say work-life balance because it's always a it seems like work hits really hard and then family hits really hard, and it's kind of more like a roller coaster than a balance. But for me, being able to be there with my 3 kids and have that flexibility was, I guess, one of the things that really drew me to entrepreneurship, especially in the beginning, because that's really how it all started.
Do you have any insights on what makes women particularly effective at identifying these patient centered solutions and the entrepreneur lifestyle? Like, do you see more women or men?
Yeah, I see women that I work with in the coaching space more. Um, I think they're drawn to me also because of my story, but women really have a sense of, what how do I want to serve in my community? What are some of the opportunities I'm seeing? And whenever I coach, especially pharmacy owners, to really narrow down their marketing for a particular service, s- take test and treat services, for example. When you think about who is the end target for this service, we really focused around a marketing message to women because we are the ones that are taking our kids to the doctors, are taking our kids to
Yeah.
the pharmacy, we're taking our aging parents to to the doctor. I mean, my my mom was limping around this morning during church, and I was, what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing to like add to the mental running to-do
We seem to
list.
have a
And
hard
so,
time taking things off our plate, and we just continually add, right? Yeah.
yes,
Especially when it
yes.
comes to care.
So, yes, absolutely. So, I've always really connected my own marketing with women too, because those are the people that I understand where they're at, and how to create services that are convenient for them. Our marketing messaging was really focused around moms and teachers. So whenever we created a new uh, the test and treat for strep and flu, we created a new clinical service. One of the first questions we were asking was who needs this service. So it's not always the people that you traditionally like think about as your target demographic. So I personally love working with women because they understand healthcare both as a professional, but also really intuitively as a caregiver a lot of times too.
Blair, I'm particularly interested in maybe skill sets that you see your clients needing as they transition from one particular niche in pharmacy to the next. How can those be obtained? Where are they gaining these new skill sets? Things of that nature. And so I'd love to have you share some of that, what you've seen as an aggregate from your coaching space.
Yeah, great question. So, one of the biggest skill sets I think we work on in our program is helping to figure out basically where is your sales process. If your end user for this test and treat program is here, what are the steps that you need to take that person through from a marketing perspective, like what are the messages, but also how how are you putting yourself out there in a way that are you delegating certain marketing channels? Are you leveraging social media? Are you utilizing all of your support staff members in the right way? So it's not just about your own skill set, because I think that's another thing we always want to say, what 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 else do I need? What other training, what other certification, whatever, thing is going to get me to a place where I finally feel ready. It's like we're a lot of times stuck in that mindset of getting ready I'm getting ready to get ready. And so helping to get yourself in a place, whether that means working with a coach or going ahead and blocking off that calendar time to create that proposal or work what I call on your business, not just in your business. Those are the types of skill sets that we really work on first. Is time management is a big one. We'll look and say, where are we blocking off time to work on your business, not just in it? And when we're working on the business, what are the things on our to-do list that are recurring week to week? And that's why having some accountability, week to week, whether that's just with a friend or a coach or a mastermind, is something that can really help you to get to those goals much more quickly. Excuse me. So I think that looking at and working with someone that you trust, that has been down the road that you want to go down. So it's so easy when you're first starting your business to want to seek advice from everyone. But as someone who has been in business now for 10 years will tell you, there's a lot of people out there that will give you advice, but it's really knowing and using your intuition to understand where you're asking questions and where you could seek the advice of a mentor or, a trusted friend. And I think that's something that pharmacists do exceedingly well is to have that community. I know that, the independent pharmacy community especially is a really tight-knit community, and there's always someone there to, to be able to bounce some ideas and questions off of. So I say all that to say that I think that there are absolutely skill sets that you can identify and build, and maybe it's sales, maybe it's marketing, or even just sitting down to block off that time. But spending time with someone who is on the same path that you are on, I think, Pam, to answer your question, that would probably be the number one piece of advice that I would give a listener out there who is thinking about starting on her own entrepreneurial journey.
Do you think some people have a hard time with that work-life balance when they are trying to start their journeys? Every mom wants to set their own schedule and work for themselves, right? Like that was what intrigued me. I remember my mom calling me. She's like, "You need to own your own pharmacy and be your own boss. Like, I'm tired of you working for people." Yeah, the mom go-getter that she is. She's my biggest cheerleader. And and then you realize, "Oh, I have to work, but I also have to manage a business." And I loved how you said you have to work on your business while working in your business or do them at separate times. And that is a really hard functioning for a lot of women because we're, at least in my personal experiences, like I am a multitasker to the max. I've got I don't even know how many tabs I have in front of me right now, but every one of them is pertinent to what is going on in my life at this moment. How do you tell them, A, hone it in, or maybe right now is not your time because we don't want to continue getting ready to be ready, we want to move forward.
That brings me back to someone I worked with several years ago, and we were working together. She wasn't getting the results and the momentum that she was really looking for. One of the issues there was a family connection. They were going to be doing this together, and so it
Yeah.
was always more of a partnership. We're going to do this together. Like, that is when you sit down and start looking at your calendar and saying, where are my priorities? Where am I blocking off this time? And you truly don't have 4 to 8 hours a week to kind of spend that dedicated time to say, I'm going to have a babysitter on Sunday afternoons, and I'm going to call that my mom CEO time, or whatever it is you want to call it, and block that off and go to a library, or get somewhere other than your space where there's 5 tabs open
Yeah.
for every single thing on the to-do list, to say, I'm really going to sit down and spend this amount of time on this thing. And the problem was, when she would block this time off, there would always be something that came up. There was a big family, so there was always somebody's birthday party. There was always something that
Pulling
kept
her.
pulling her attention.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I think that if you are in that season of life, asking yourself, where would you be willing to say no and put some boundaries around that CEO time, and where are you not? And that's a question that only you can answer. And I think that that's, again, something you can reevaluate as needed. So that is the beauty of entrepreneurship. It's like you're never really done building. If you
Yeah.
have a vision, if you have a goal for what you want to create, stopping isn't really an option. It's just in you, and it's just something that needs to be expressed. And that was always how I approach my business, my platform, the summits and the things that we would do, is what is something that needs to be expressed through me? What is something that maybe I'm processing right now as a mom, as a pharmacist, or whatever, And I think it was through maybe me sharing authentically some stories around my own business, personal, and all of that that really helped me to connect and to have the impact that I've had. And so I really want to encourage other women that your timeline is your own, and if this is something that you're very passionate about, then schedule time for it. And I think that things happen in maybe not the timeline that we want, but they happen in the timeline that they're supposed to. So give yourself some grace around that as well.
And you think like 4 to 8 hours is what you need when you're starting to get into that development thought process? A week?
What When I'm working with someone, that's the amount of time that for the even putting together the LLC, getting the business bank account
Mhm.
set up, like if you want to do a website, creating the website, going out to the pharmacies that you want to work with or the physicians' offices that you're wanting to contact about your new program, whatever that looks like. It's really hard to say exactly how long a startup phase will take because some people I've seen them get their businesses up and running in less than 6 weeks. And then others, it just takes people longer to get themselves to a place where, like I said, they're really ready to make that decision on what do I want to name the LLC, or you know what domain website am I going to buy, or what headshot photographer am I going to book. And all of that is something that can be part of the process. So I don't really want to make anyone feel like they have to adhere to a strict timeline, but I really recommend it's much better to do a little bit a lot more often than to say, I'm going to block off the whole weekend and focus 12 hours on doing this thing, because that's just simply not how business works. And so it does take time, and it takes a lot of these little small marketing actions to build up to create that tipping point in your business.
Blair, I the whole concept of getting ready to get ready speaks to me because I feel like that's what I'm always doing forever and ever. I'm that person that I am trying to figure out the name of the LLC and find the person for the headshots, and analysis paralysis is where I'm at. So much of it. So I really like the concept of just blocking off the time and having that accountability that you talk about. And one thing that I also find for myself, and I think a lot of other high achieving women, especially pharmacists and friends and other women that I've spoken to, is this idea of imposter syndrome of when you're getting ready to do all of these things, you're like, I want to do all of these things, but am I qualified? Can I actually do it? Is this something that I should be doing? So what kind of things do you work with your clients or you coach for to help work through that?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, imposter syndrome, that that is a challenge. I think one of the things that we do a lot with my clients that they really enjoy is role playing. So we will do like set up. I'm your ideal client. I come in, walk me through your sales pitch. Walk me through the 3 questions that you're going to ask me to identify if I'm even someone that you want to pitch your service to. So when dealing with imposter syndrome and some of the naming stuff, calling yourself an expert, I'm like, okay, you don't have to call yourself an expert. That's the good news. You're an entrepreneur. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But I think it's really important to, like I said, give yourself some grace. If I always say, if pharmacy school taught me nothing, it taught me how to learn. So if there's something that I bumped up against in my business, and it's like they always say in business, new level, new devil. So, I mean, you make your first 10K and you think, "Oh, okay, I got it now." And then you go to the next level and then you're at 100K. And so all of the questions, all of the things change. So I think getting comfortable with the imposter syndrome piece of it and just saying, "Okay, this is just triggering something in me and telling me something that I don't feel comfortable making a decision around this yet. What additional information do I need?" And asking yourself that question to get to a place where I feel comfortable speaking on this topic or whatever. And I think for most women, if imposter syndrome comes from a place that maybe for me needed healing as a overachieving eldest daughter figurehead, like that was me. And so I think when I got to entrepreneurship, that allowed me to just kind of take off the identity of like, what does it mean to be a pharmacist? Am I more than just a pharmacist? Oh, I also see myself as a medicine woman, as a healer, as a mother, as a wise woman. Like, what are
Mhm.
some other things in myself that don't have anything to do with pharmacy, but they have more to do with me and the journey that I'm on as a human being, developing personally and professionally, and being pulled by always wanting to get better, to learn, to connect more deeply with people. And I think that's really been a big part of my journey, and not necessarily ever overcoming the imposter syndrome, but just building that confidence in myself and in my own voice. And I had all of the demons of of self criticism in my mind, and I would put a Facebook video up or something, and in the back of my mind, I would think, "Oh, I bet they're thinking she's just too big for her britches."
Yeah.
And I was like, I would never have said that to a friend of mine, but I would say that to myself. And so realizing the little things that we hear in the back of our minds, like how much of that is just not really serving us, if it's a limiting belief of I'm a procrastinator, or I'm just good at sales, or whatever it is we tell ourselves. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too skinny. I'm too fat. I'm all of these things. And so I think giving yourself the permission to just embody authentically who you are and what you believe in, when you're doing that, when you're in your alignment with what it is you really want to do and to bring to the world and to create, then I think that we can let go of the imposter syndrome and the perfectionism and all of that a little bit, just to say whatever gets created is what's meant to be created. But starting with the intention of this is what I want to bring, is always where I start working with clients.
Yeah, kind of like I'm kind of hearing it as like you're shedding the idea of imposter syndrome because you're not fitting into a specific mold of a role. You're redefining that role for yourself. So I like that
Yes.
kind of shift in mindset for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I do encourage, like I said, I encourage people to rename whatever your business or your LLC. Like if you want to get creative with it, I chose the Pharmapreneur Academy because I thought it was fun. Pharmapreneurs, like I made up a word. And so whatever that title, if pharmacist doesn't define you, then what do you want to call yourself, and in turn, what do you want your clients to call you? So yeah, I think that's a big piece of it, is just being creative and using your business as a form of self-expression too.
I've listened to several of your interviews that you've given with different media, and you seem to really, even though you've been doing it for 10 years, yourself still rely on coaches and mentors to help you grow your business, that it's such an important thing. Um, the mentorship type relationships. I'm guessing like that is still a part of your growth um, trajectory?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks a little bit different these days. So I've accepted a role now that with PQS by Innovator that excites me because it's in a much larger realm of business. And one of the things that as a pharmacist entrepreneur that I've always dreamed is working at a startup and working in a space where the technology is matching up with the opportunities that pharmacists have as providers. And so now I think mentorship for me has expanded outside of pharmacy, also to other, I guess, trailblazers in the health and wellness space. So I've really been keeping an eye on the work of Alice Walton with the awesome School of Medicine in Northwest Arkansas and some of the programs where they're really focusing more on lifestyle medication and lifestyle change, health and wellness. So I think mentorship for me has been less focused on my own business at this point and focusing more on advocating for pharmacy to have a stake at the healthcare system that's changing and evolving as the healthcare system evolves and as technology evolves. And so now I think mentorship for me really stretches outside of pharmacy as well into some other industries. And I think that's exciting for me and, kind of looking forward into the next step of my career. That's where I see me continuing, to develop professionally and kind of move the needle in more of the payer space.
So then what is next with you said tech and consulting, like what is next for that? You the functional medicine portion? Is that where everyone's moving?
So right now, what we're looking at is getting pharmacists paid at the community level for clinical services.
That would be
And so
huge.
being able to serve them the opportunity to capture clinical revenue in their work streams, in the existing workflow they're used to. So, for example, with the test and treat, giving pharmacists the opportunity to do certain tests, certain clinical services in their day-to-day workflow and being able to create additional streams of revenue through these payer contracts is something that we're looking at not just in Arkansas with Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, but we're really looking at across the country as a whole for Medicare Advantage patients, but hopefully expanding to meeting other quality-based metrics and HEDIS measures that pharmacists could help to control.
Mhm.
For example, you pair an oral contraceptive consultation program with a breast cancer screening and being able to do that at the point of sale in the pharmacy that does open the door for opportunities like creating functional medicine programs. So, with preventative and functional medicine programs, the opportunity for the pharmacist to intervene and create a referral at the point of sale for the customer in the pharmacy is a reality today. And so the pathway for getting pharmacies or getting pharmacists paid for screening type services or public health type services is something that, as we continue to move pharmacy forward, is something I think we need to continue to unify around as a profession to say what is the direction that we want to take pharmacy in as a profession, in the next 10, 20 years. And so functional medicine is absolutely one of those things. And then there's also, I believe, some real pathways for pharmacists to be paid for these types of clinical interventions as well.
Wow. That is a lot to take in and just like, but so inspiring that it could be happening and it's happening in other states. Georgia, we're not recognized as providers yet. We're hoping to get that, you know, soon, but it's nice to see that that is coming across the nation for others.
I wanted to ask about, because you
Yep.
published your book about 10 years ago and
Hmm.
been talking about all the things that have changed and what's progressed and technology and everything like that. So if you were to do like a 10-year anniversary second edition, are there edits that you would make? Has anything become easier in the space of kind of where you started with that piece of pharmacy consulting? Are there any new challenges that you've come across?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that some of the platforms being used have changed. Some of them have been bought out and, consolidated and that kind of thing. So some of that has changed. I think what I would add in the second edition, honestly, has been more input from pharmacists around the world. Because even though we primarily in the book talked about the US healthcare system and how pharmacists can bill for certain clinical items as a provider, there was a lot of questions that came from Canadian pharmacists, from the UK, where pharmacists are providers
Yeah.
covered under the National Provider Union there, and then a lot of pharmacists who are from the Middle East and Africa are very interested in the models where pharmacists are able to step in and serve public health in a different way. So I think if I would add anything into the second edition, yeah, we would probably want to include more examples from pharmacy models around the globe. And honestly, that was the coolest thing to me about the Elevate Pharmacy Virtual Summit, was that there were pharmacists in attendance at over
Oh,
100 countries. Like, it was
That's
really
amazing.
insane. We had
was that this year
1,800
past year?
pharmacists.
This was your
No,
past
that
year?
was,
Or?
I think, I want to say that was 2018 was one of the biggest years. I think we did 1,800 pharmacists registered and on those, like, literally broke some Zoom calls. and that was the point in which I kind of realized, like, oh, this message around entrepreneurship and this message around professional fulfillment and healing and medicine and pharmacy, it transcends more than what we're dealing with as pharmacists here in the United States. And it really spoke to a lot of pharmacists all over the globe. So I think if I did a second edition, that's probably some of the updates that I would include.
I would I would love to see that though.
Yes. Because you take pharmacists, I'm guessing they're pharmacists, with you to Costa Rica. All of us have had a friend, Amanda, that went with you to Costa Rica last year, I want to say. And this year you're going to the Galapagos Islands. Are they also from all around the world, or do they tend to be more US based pharmacists at these discussions and
Yeah,
these meetings of the minds?
Yes. So definitely the US-based pharmacists are primarily the people that we're leading on retreats and doing the masterminds with, just because it's it's easier to understand. State laws are hard enough because it depends state to state what your Pharmacy Practice Act is. So what I do encourage is pharmacist leaders in other countries creating similar models, virtual summit type models and Zoom conversations to just organize around this idea of where do we want pharmacy to go? What does entrepreneurship in pharmacy look like? How do you as an individual pharmacist want to redefine your practice, as Lindsay said? And I think that we've really been able to I think we started our first mastermind was 2018 in Nashville, and then we hosted another one, female entrepreneur mastermind in Vegas in 2019. And then the pandemic hit, and then we had a couple in Costa Rica, and yeah, we're going back April 2026 to Galapagos Islands, and that trip is called the Healing Medicine Retreat because it is a time that we set aside to be around like-minded people and really set aside time to dream and to have a fantastic vacation together, of course, but also to connect in a deeper way and just really think about where we want to go, professionally and personally moving forward, after the retreat. So our retreats are always a little workshop based. We don't work too hard on them, but we do have, some fun little workshops that help us to reflect and bring some intentional time to the whole experience so that we can take home, some of those little micro actions or even a next best action, just something to put on the calendar to say, by this date, I'm going to have this thing decided. And so, even if it's those really small steps, a retreat is a great way to take a step back so that you can create some more momentum going forward.
Speaking of dreaming, and I want to make sure we get this question in. So, if we have a woman pharmacist who's dreaming of a pharmapreneur idea, but they're terrified to take that next step, what is the one small practical action you would challenge them to take within the next 48 hours?
Within the next 48 hours, reach out to one person who you think would be a good fit for your service and just not even pitch it to them. Just say, this is something I've been thinking about. What do you think? And that honest feedback, not from your best friend. I didn't say, ask your husband about this.
Hmm?
I said, your ideal client, which is, putting yourself out there, like I said, is the hardest part. But if you're offering a service to, focus on a specific female athletes, for example, we've got, there's a fantastic pharmacist. She's helps female athletes with their nutrition. She's in Florida. Just a really unique niche opportunity to work with young athletes. And so first identify who is that person that would benefit from your service, that they would be interested in the result that you're offering, and reach out to them on Facebook, text message, call them up, say, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. There's something I've been thinking about. I want to run this by a few people. All I'm looking for is feedback, your honest thought. Can I email it to you? Can I email you the questions? Can I ask them to you right now? What's the best way to get this information?" But I challenge you to write down 3 questions that you want to ask that ideal client and email them, snail mail them, whatever you want to do. But put them out there. Put them out there in the universe and see what answers come back.
Well, that's kind of a perfect segue because each episode
Mhm.
we do end with our Empower Her RX moment, which is a simple reflection and a challenge to take into the week. And for this one, we are challenging the listener, the watcher, that what is one way you can innovate your pharmacy space this week? So we want to thank you, Blair. We want to thank you so much for coming and bringing your expertise of the Pharmapreneur Academy to us. We'll have a link in our on our website in the descriptions of the podcast. Where can they find you though if they want to go look for you, Blair?
Yeah, Pharmapreneur Academy is still the best place
.com.
to contact me. Yeah, pharmapreneuracademy.com. You can join our newsletter. I send out a monthly email newsletter just to
I
kind of
still
keep
get it.
everyone up to date. And yep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it
Yeah,
so much.
it's a great way to keep in touch and keep up with what's going on, not just here in the state of Arkansas, but in general when it comes to pharmacist-led clinical services.
Well, make sure to follow us and share your story and join the conversation wherever you get your podcast. Check out our website at empowherherx.com. That's EmpowHERx.com. Again, thank you, Blair, so much for coming on and giving us this wonderful information for us to take forward. I feel very inspired right now.
Same.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Blair. Thanks so
know.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Blair.
having me.
Yes.